and our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, horror hounds, and welcome to the It Slays podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm an Australian Merlot, Mike.
And it's Jill.
And we are back and recovering from our Oktoberfest, our Halloween. Hopefully everyone had a good Halloween, had lots of trick-or-treaters, or, didn't go out and TP too many houses. Luckily, we stayed safe. I know on our end of the street, we had a lot of university kids and teenagers posing as kids trying to get candy. So, and I'm not mean, so I make sure to kids, adults, anyone gets some candy.
I feel like we should normalize adults going trick-or-treating because...
Absolutely.
Why not? I miss it, yeah.
I was gonna say, is this just because you'd like some candy, or...
Yeah, and also, I hate putting an age limit on fun. And,
exactly.
The Halloween spirit.
Thank you.
I like that. I like that little PSA.
Well, I think we could all use a little bit of fun, don't you?
Always. Who couldn't use that?
Absolutely.
And obviously, you can tell from the intro, we are Coltonless this week. I'm sure he'll be back next week or someday. He might not even ever come back. We never know. He's like one of those terrible dads, just popping in our lives whenever he wants to. So, a little traumatic, that's okay. What's a little trauma?
He's just gone for some milk and cigarettes.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm playing Alan Wake.
We see you, Colton.
Called out.
So, we know where we're going to start. What have we been consuming? What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What have we been reading? All that good stuff. Jill, we'll start with you.
All right. Yeah, I'll start with this one just because I was telling you guys before we start recording about this random theater that I went to. So I went for a showing of Dawn of the Dead, and nobody was there. It was empty. Nobody there, and it had the reclining seats. It was so nice, and it was this tiny little theater, and I didn't see another person.
The original Dawn of the Dead?
Yeah.
Or the remake?
The original.
Nice.
Yeah, and no one was there when the movie was over. There were no employees there. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. It was straight out of the 90s, had the old design carpet and everything. So I'm definitely going to go back there because that was fucking awesome. But yeah, I'm sorry, Mike, you okay?
Sorry, yeah, I was trying to fix something. Anyway, go ahead. I was fixing a cord. You're gonna hear my hand on the mic when you...
Yeah, I'll do some editing, but listeners, so you know, Mike is just
Being a hamster.
Being a hamster.
Being a dirty little hamster.
I can't help it.
Anyway, yeah, apart from that, I rewatched Trick or Treat, which is my new Halloween comfort movie.
It's not Halloween 5?
It is, unfortunately, not Halloween 5. But yeah, rewatched it, which was awesome as always, especially after watching True Blood all year.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and my husband was next to me watching it, and it was his first time seeing Trick or Treat, and he didn't like it as much as he should have, so shame on him.
When should we expect the divorce papers filed, or...
I mean, they're filed, honey. They're just, they're on a stack. Yeah. Just kidding. Apart from that, I'm still watching The Fall of the House of Usher. I have 3 episodes left.
I'm so behind on that. I'm still only 2 episodes in, so.
Yeah, it's because I don't have an attention span, and every time I watch something, I'm on my phone. So I don't like to do that for this one because I need to understand, and I like getting all the Edgar Allan Poe references, and that's my favorite part. Also, I went to a bookstore yesterday, and they're really trying to sell that book. And I think it's really funny because I don't think anyone's actually going to buy the actual Fall of the House of Usher and read it.
Yeah.
But good for trying.
They should, though. They should read Poe.
They should. Poe is awesome. You know, you should always read some Poe, especially around this time of year. I watched Five Nights at Freddy's, and it wasn't my favorite. I've never played the games, but I know that it's like highly favored amongst the people who played the games. I just think as a movie, it could have done better. I think it had a really good premise, but yeah, it just was lacking and had great potential. And Rowan and I watched the first episode of Creepshow for Stream Screams, where we are doing a Creepshow thing for the foreseeable future.
Oh,
so
yeah.
be on the lookout for that. And yeah, that's all I have for like watching things. But yesterday, I went to Barnes & Noble, got a stack of books, went to the Starbucks and sat down, and I read some before I bought them. Actually, I read one and I didn't buy it. So,
ooh, what
send
one?
me
I need
to
to know.
jail.
Spill the tea. Spill the tea.
So I was in the poetry section. And
oh my God, it was Instagram poetry, wasn't it?
It was Instagram poetry.
Yeah.
I know. But I heard a lot about Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell, and it was not it. Like it was
awful.
It was like really shallow, and I was like, I can see that they're trying really hard to achieve this certain thing, but they're not doing it.
You can't just throw line breaks into stuff and call it a poem. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, same. So didn't really like that, and I won't be actually picking up any of her books. But I did pick up one called To Make Monsters Out of Girls by Amanda Lovelace, and I really resonate with that one. It does have a lot of line breaks and, you know, can kind of be like kitschy or whatever, but I really
she's all
liked
like,
it.
the witch doesn't burn in this one and stuff.
Yes.
Like, it's all very like feminist, yeah.
Yes, she's so good. I love that. Love the artwork on it as well. And I read The Woman in Me, which is the new Britney Spears memoir. And it was fantastic. And I loved every second of it. Couldn't put it down. Trying to get my hands on the Paris memoir, but Barnes & Noble didn't have it yesterday. Which is shocking.
It is shocking.
And apart from that, on Halloween night, I went to a Motionless in White concert, and it was the coolest thing to see, like, grown-ass adults dressed up on Halloween doing spooky shit, vibing to the spooky spirit. They decorated it, lots of pumpkins. They had, like, a little Nightmare Before Christmas, like, cliff made out of purple and orange lights. They all had, like, costumes and makeup done, like the bands. And they played all of my favorite spooky songs. And they also had the Cherry Bombs, and it's this like dance group of women, and they're, you know, dressed up in costumes and doing a bunch of cool stuff, throwing out candy to the crowd. So yeah, I thought that was awesome. What about you, Mike?
Okay, so I am continuing watching Insecure because I'm behind the times. Obviously, it's over. I feel like it's been over for like 2 years, but anyway, I'm loving it. I've been meaning to watch it for years, and I'm just really enjoying it, picking my way through it. And I don't go to movies very often in theaters, as you guys know. And I saw Priscilla on Thursday night, new Sofia Coppola, and it was amazing. I loved it. I can't wait to see it again. I'm like literally clicking on all the links online, like pre-order, where's the 4K? I need it now. I need to watch this at home, like on my TV. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Sofia Coppola does not miss. This was amazing. We were surrounded on one side by a couple of older ladies. It was kind of like a middle-aged lady and then like an older lady who I assume was her mom. And they probably thought they were going to see an Elvis movie.
Oh no.
And then in front of us there were these like probably 13-year-old girls with, I assume, their mom or one of their moms, and they like had no idea like anything about Priscilla Presley or Elvis's lives. And they were like, oh, Jacob Elordi, he was in Euphoria, and they're like explaining Euphoria to her, and I'm like,
stop it.
You are too young to be watching Euphoria. Oh my god. Like, what's
Wait,
wrong
how
with
old
you?
were they?
Like 13 max.
Okay, I guess.
They're like, he's so toxic in that. And I'm like, no, don't watch that. I felt like going like, you need to put parental controls on their TV.
But we used to watch shit like that, like
Oh, I know. I watched
when we were
worse than that
age.
at that age, but
like...
I was not like talking about it in front of my mother. But anyway, that's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so I saw Priscilla and I loved it. Other than that, I like you. I also obviously chewed through the Britney book. Lover, Queen, loved it. Got a bit misty a couple times through it. Made me appreciate her even more.
Yeah.
I'm still reading the massive 870-page Madonna biography, and it's superb.
Really?
Part of it is that it's very dense, but also, like, a lot of it is, like, they talk about, like, people she collaborated with and, like, artists that she was inspired by, like, during one album and then the next and the next. And I keep stopping and going, oh my god, I haven't listened to that person in so long, or oh, I never heard of them. And then I go and, like, research them, or, like, go, oh, like, I haven't listened to that album in a million years. So I keep having to stop because I, like, go off on tangents, which I love. Because it's, like, getting me, like, oh, it just, like, makes me feel, like, inspired and artistic.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It's a good. I don't want it to end, so that's why I keep stopping it.
Savor it.
Yeah. Exactly. Just some like the flavor, the savor, flavor.
Madonna.
The spice. So other than that, though, I'm reading like 8 books at once. And I decided that I wanted to devastate my life by rereading 2 of my favorite books about, like, love, and they are All About Love by Bell Hooks. And I thought about it the other day because I haven't read Bell Hooks in years.
So you're depressed.
But of course, yeah. So well, I mean, listen, it's November now. What do you expect?
It's time, yeah.
But somebody fucking posted it, and it was like making fun of it, and it went viral. And I was like, "Fuck, I need to reread that." So I did. And then the other one is A Lover's Discourse by Roland Barthes. So I'm just going to be, like, even more depressed and
hell yeah,
mopey.
But you look great in that cardigan.
Well, thank you. So, yeah, that's it for me. Like, that's literally all I've been consuming. I've just been working nonstop. Ro, like, lay it on us. Literally, like, lay it out like a feast. What have you been gorging yourself
I feel
on?
like it's been a rough... I haven't watched as much as I normally watch. I've been watching some TV. It's just been, getting into, like, winter, so it's kind of one of those moods. So I've picked back up 90 Day Fiancé. So I'm trying to pound through that. It's a good show for me.
Not pounding your 90 Day Fiancé.
Yeah. That's right. Some of these guys, it seems not. But yeah, it's a good show to be on my phone and just look up when someone's screaming and there's some sort of, like, drama going on.
Yeah.
One of us.
That's right. One of. I'm obviously also I'm continuing my watch on the X-Files. So, I'm going slowly but surely. That's one that it's like, there's so many seasons and they're so long, but it's so good. I'm, like, really trying to savor it. I'm like, I don't want to get through it too quick because it's just like, especially if I'm like, I'm not really in the mood for anything. Like, I'm always in the mood to put X-Files on. So it's been perfect. And I've also started to, it's kind of a rewatch, but not really, because I've only seen the first season, but I'm watching 30 Rock, just because I had never actually finished it, and, I guess as problematic as he is now, like, Alec Baldwin's fucking hilarious in that show, so I just think of young Beetlejuice Alec Baldwin when I watch it, so I like it. So yeah, that's all I've been watching, like, TV-wise. A lot of rewatches, movie-wise. So for, like, rewatches, just where we were celebrating Halloween, and of course, the couple days leading up to Halloween, Exilia indulges me where we're watching, like, multiple horror movies a night. So we watched a lot of stuff that I'd seen throughout this year and last year that she kind of missed. And I was like, hey, this was stuff that I think you'd be into. So we watched Megan, because she hadn't seen it yet.
Nice.
The Boogeyman, Phantasm, which Exilia ended up hating. She...
One of me.
Oh my god, what?
She was on Jill's level on this. She did really like the music in it, but she didn't really feel the rest of it. And then I decided to do a double feature of Phantasm and then ruin her soul and night by watching Speak No Evil.
How are you not divorced yet?
Yeah, well, what about
honestly.
those divorce papers?
Yeah, she ended up really liking Speak No Evil. I mean, obviously, it's a banger.
Well, if you get someone to watch Phantasm beforehand, they'll like anything.
That's a good point.
And then for like newer stuff, I watched, these kind of went under the radar. I didn't know about them, but Netflix has been kind of getting into the shorts game, obviously with the Wes Anderson stuff, but they've been uploading like shorts and then not really promoting them. So they actually uploaded 2 horror shorts. One's called Flashback, that I thought was pretty good. It's by Jed Shepard, who was the director of Scare Package 2, that is a Shudder film. It's a lot of Shudder people, it seems. They're getting these like kind of Shudder exclusive directors just to do these shorts on Netflix. I guess a bigger audience. But I thought it was pretty cool. If you're a Patreon member, it's very 645. It is like a time travel slasher short that's about 10 minutes long. Really well done. It's British, I believe. And then I watched another one I really enjoyed called Disco Inferno.
Oh my god.
And that one was really good. I haven't seen the movie they did for Shudder. It was called Yoshua, which I'd never seen. I've seen the cover though, and this was pretty good. It's disco themed, and it's about basically a pregnant woman, and like Satan has come to claim her child in this discotheque, and it's really like the lighting, the music, everything's really well done in it. I really enjoyed them, and it's another one like
to quote Carly Rae Jepsen, he didn't just come here to dance.
Oh my god.
Sorry.
We also watched Night of the Hunted, which is another Shudder exclusive. This is a film that is directed by Frank Kalufon. Is that? I don't know how to say his last name. It's the guy that directed P2. This is his new film.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, I never really if it's something that maybe possibly someday we could review. We had a good time with this, though. It's very much like P2, where it's a single location horror movie that is very, very political, very much in the kind of world that The Hunt was in, where it's about COVID, it's about like Republicans and Democrats. It, might be a little too on the nose to make it fun campy, but overall it was a pretty good time. I also saw Five Nights at Freddy's. Me and Colton did an outslaying on this. Jill obviously seemed to hate it. Colton didn't really like it at all. And I surprisingly was kind to it. I'm notoriously not kind to PG-13 movies. And I had a good time, but I also have no relation to the game franchise. Where I know Colton knew all about it. So
what a nerd.
Yeah, what a fucking nerd. I finally finished, it only took us a year. I finally watched the last episode of Black Mirror also.
That's why it popped up on my letterbox.
Yeah, which is Demon 79, and loved it. I thought this was probably one of the better Black Mirrors they've ever done. I love, I can't think of the guy's name in it that plays the demon in it. He's from Men. He plays the boyfriend that kills himself in Men. I think his name's Papa Isaidu or something, but he's great. He basically is a demon in the skin of a 70s funk singer. So it's kind of this comedy horror set in the UK, dealing with the racism in the UK, and I really enjoyed it. And then on the non-horror side of things, because I'm a dirtbag, I watched The Expendables and The Expendables 2, which they are what they are.
They're not bad.
The first one I thought was just, I was I don't hate that I watched it. It's just kind of cool seeing all these 80s, 90s guys together. I got really excited for 2 because 2 has Jean-Claude Van Damme in it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of have a soft spot for Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He plays WoW.
Oh, really? That's impressive.
He was in a WoW commercial. He plays a mage.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of sad. He wasn't really...
That's wild.
he wasn't really in it a lot. He's like the villain, but barely in it. But I guess I did get to see him kick a knife through someone's heart. So that was well worth it. And then I guess in that vein, after I watched Expendables 2, I watched Netflix just like literally like yesterday or the day before yesterday put out a new documentary called Sly that is about Sylvester Stallone. It's not long. It's like an hour and a half. It's basically just like a very Netflix documentary looking, but it's a very like candid interview of Sylvester Stallone kind of looking back at his entire career. I thought it was all right. I was a little disappointed that he kind of avoided, he did talk about his father, who was like very abusive as a child, but he kind of like veered away from talking about anything negative. It was all about like, he only talked about movies that like were hits and like how it helped and how he felt, you know, that, you know, am I going to lose it all? Oh no, I'm going to make another hit and all this kind of stuff. But I thought it was an interesting premise because I don't really know anything about him. So I thought it was kind of cool, and I think he kind of justifies why he doesn't talk about negative things. He's got a very, I don't know, like very old school masculine, you know, American man point of view, or, you know, he talks about like your heroes he doesn't think your hero should ever have visible flaws, and that it's kind of interesting. The movie starts about him talking about how he got into wanting to be in movies because he watched Hercules, the movie, and how that kind of like comes back around now that he's older. So it was kind of interesting. If you like finding out about like these 80s action stars, it's kind of funny. Arnold Schwarzenegger's in it, and they talk about, you know, how they were kind of going toe-to-toe for a bunch of times, and it was kind of interesting to hear these guys old now, because, you know, they'd never admit it in the 80s and 90s, but, like, Arnold basically talks about how he feels like Sylvester Stallone was, like, the better of the two of them, and kind of, like, outperformed anything he did.
Says who?
Like I said, if you're into that kind of stuff, check it out. But, yeah, that's really all I've been...
Well, he didn't do Jingle All the Way, so...
True, or Kindergarten Cop.
Exactly. Both bangers.
Absolute bangers. PG-13 bangers, bro. They exist.
I know. Listen, for action, I'm not arguing. So, so yeah, I think it's time to get into the film for this episode, 2012. The Lords of Salem. Mike, why don't you tell the people why you chose this one?
Sure thing. Okay, so first of all, I have a soft spot for, as we've talked about numerous times on this podcast, Rob Zombie's filmography. So I thought that this was going to be a good choice to bring in at some point. And honestly, to be brutally honest, I was trying to throw a life preserver to Jill because she's had to do a bunch of movies in a row that she has really not liked, and I kind of thought, hey, this might be something that Jill would be interested in, so I
That's so
felt
nice.
like I'd throw something like a little bit more like maybe Jill will like it.
Thank you.
But she probably won't hate it. So and I enjoy talking about it and watching it again. So yeah, that was honestly that was it. That was my reasoning. I just think it was a good choice. Yeah.
I thought it was kind of interesting because, you know, I actually went back last week and listened to the introductory episode of It Slays podcast. And
oh, you didn't? Oh my God, that's so embarrassing.
And you and me and Exilia just praised Rob Zombie all the time in it. I mean, if you've been a listener from episode 1, House of a Thousand Corpses was what, like the third or fourth one we ever reviewed.
Yeah, it was really early on.
And even on that episode, like, we just talked about our adoration for Rob Zombie, and we've never done another Rob Zombie movie. That was almost 5 years ago.
I know, it's wild. But I mean, like, the thing is, we do have two that we're gonna get to eventually when we, you know, like several Halloweens from now.
Like 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years when we're all recording.
We'll skip over Revelations, but anyway, I'm not gonna go there.
We're like beating kids away from the microphone and stuff.
Yeah.
Mike's still just eating mac and cheese into the microphone.
Oh yeah, I'm
out of the pot.
where it's not kids screaming in the background, it's me even more noisily banging my fork against the pot as I'm eating out of it like a fucking rodent.
Michael have
What was he
gone
calling me, a
senile.
Even more senile, you mean?
But with that, let's get into the trailer and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
This Friday,
are you the new tenant?
Writer and director Rob Zombie resurrects an ancient evil.
The curse, the Lords of Salem, possessing the souls of the Salem women.
From the producers of Paranormal Activity and Insidious, fear their return. The Lords of Salem, rated R. Special 10 p.m. show this Thursday. Check local listing.
2012's The Lords of Salem is written and directed by Rob Zombie, and the synopsis is as follows. We've been waiting. We've always been waiting. Heidi, a radio DJ, is sent a box containing a record, a gift from the Lords. The sounds within the grooves trigger flashbacks of her town's violent past. Is Heidi going mad, or are the Lords back to take revenge on Salem, Massachusetts? We're going to start with our first experiences. Is this your first time seeing the Lords of Salem, or are you just, were you just jamming to Rob Zombie ever since you put that Twisted Metal video game into the PlayStation and you were just jamming the Dragula? We'll start with you, Mike.
Yeah, listen, Twisted Metal, anything PlayStation is like triggering flashbacks right now, to be honest. I saw this shortly after it first came out, and you're gonna have to clear this up for me, because I'm trying to remember. Me and X watched it one day. I can't remember what we were doing. It might have been either we were out for coffee or out shopping or something, and then went back to your place and watched it there while you were at work. Or I came over to your house when I was like getting ready to cat sit for you one time, and we decided to watch a movie. But I'm gonna say it was shortly after it first came out. I want to say, did you buy it on Blu-ray immediately as soon as it came out?
I think I definitely bought this at HMV.
Okay, then that's what we did. Then I watched it when it came out on Blu-ray and you bought it. I can't remember how we got it. I was like, maybe we pirated it, but it was probably your Blu-ray.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess it would make more sense for me to just go into that. I also couldn't remember, but I'm sure that was it. Because I remember, obviously, I'm a big fan of House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects and the Halloween movies. So I remember this coming out and immediately running in to get it. What about you, Jill?
Yeah, so this is around the time where I have a lot of blind spots in my horror movie watching, but I've always been a fan of Mr. Robert Zombert. So even though I miss the Lords of Salem, I loved, Halloween, House of Thousand Corpses, and I was jamming out to Rob Zombie all the time as a little goth kid. But yeah, this is my first experience. Of course.
Nice.
It's time to get into the neon crucifix and rats running out of your apartment of things. We know where we're going to start our favorite scene and or favorite kill. Jill, why don't you start us off?
All right. I think for me, no, it's not the dildo scene, though I thought about that for a second. But I really like the scene of the Witch's Sabbath. I don't know. I just think it's like an iconic piece of imagery whenever I see it, and especially if it's, executed well. And I think it was like equal parts repulsive, but intriguing, done really well. You've got the goat, you got the witches gathering the fire and then shredding their clothes and stuff. So I love stuff like that. So that won me over. What about you, Mike?
Well, it's funny that Ro brought up the neon cross, because that sequence where she goes into the apartment and sees the cross and then subsequently walks out and is she's having all the flashbacks and the visions and stuff. And then she wakes up I think that might be the first time she kind of has a vision or a dream and kind of snaps out of it, and you don't, I feel like the first time you watch it you don't know that that's what's happening. Mm-hmm. But I love that whole scene, because I think that it just fills me with this absolute sense of dread. Like when she's walking down the hall towards the door, I think it's such a beautiful shot. I love her like thigh-high wool leggings that she's wearing too. Like I just think everything about it is like beautiful, and that hallway's beautiful. But like when she's walking towards the apartment, I'm like equally jumping back and forth going like, oh my god, I really want her to go in there so I can see. And then also like just filled with a sense of dread. I'm like, don't fucking go in there, please. And then she wakes up and it's very like a really good jolt scene. Like in the theaters it'd be like a jump scene, but I think even if you're watching it at home, it's one of those like kind of jump scare type scenes that really works, because it's not like it just comes out of nowhere. It like gives you that sense of dread for like 5 minutes and then hits you with it. So yeah, I love that. I think it's such a scary scene, and it's like one of the scenes that just shows Rob Zombie as a master and knows what he's doing. What would you say, Ro?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have that scene written down, but I did really like that scene. I mean, I like when, you know, she's got her hands up to the cross in the trance, and you get to see like the whatever it is, the like beast in the background just kind of slowly come out of the shadows, and you see the fur. Like, oh, that's so fantastic. But my favorite scene is actually in Kill, even though it's kind of a psycho because it's not a real kill. It's where I called them the death nurses show up in Herman's apartment, and they like tap him on the shoulder, and then he just like kind of dies. And then, you know, that's where she's kind of like envisioning this like, you know, very like sterile medical like kind of birth and procedure. But then it's followed where she wakes up in the bathroom and she has like that mural of like, they kind of look like they're like almost like SS soldiers with gas masks. Mm-hmm. And then they start bleeding, like blood starts coming out of them. And that whole kind of scene as a collection to me is just like, it's kind of like what you said, Mike, with the other scene. There's a lot of scenes in this where I'm just like, this is why the people that love Rob Zombie love Rob Zombie. Yeah. You know, I was really trying to think when I was watching this, like, I don't know if there's another modern director like him that is like so divisive around, like people are so divisive on him, because I'm very surprised at how many horror people just don't vibe with him at all. Yeah. And kind of just think it like anything he does is just trash, all this kind of stuff. And then there's like this other camp where it's just like, we ride or die for anything Rob Zombie does.
Yeah.
Even 31.
Even 31. And it's just,
I love 31.
No.
To me, this is like probably one of the best examples in his filmography of like, even if you don't like his writing or anything like that, it's just, he's so good at coming up with like vivid visuals and just like fascinating tapestries that I just don't know how you can even hate on that. But yeah, I guess that was a long way to say that was my favorite scene. So
okay, can we, you made a little reference there that I just wanted to come back to really quickly for a second, because I want to ask a question before I forget about it. So when I was talking about that scene, you know, in the apartment, and you mentioned the creature thing. So is that Satan? Because I've always been like, is that the devil? Because they like seem to kind of gravitate towards that, and they're like the three sisters and stuff. You know, I'm like, I
think so, yeah.
Like I thought, and it was very, the way that it's shot and the way that it's cut and stuff, I was like, I feel like that's the devil.
Yeah, because
I feel like that is the devil, and that's kind of like his little, that's his portal, is whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Because what was the curse that they put on her family? It was to bring a child of hell or something like that, or the devil's child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was basically like his bloodline was going to give birth to the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah.
Now, I kind of thought something different. I thought the tiny, grotesque creature was more of Satan.
Okay, yeah.
Now, my reasoning for that was because my watching and reading of it was that was when she got pregnant, was like him shooting like the tentacles and she's holding them. And then that's kind of where after that you're kind of being like, oh, wait a second, like she's pregnant, she starts getting sick, like all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could see it either way. Like I think also you have a good point where, you know, they're kind of always, whenever you're getting just an angle of the sisters or whatever, like it's always them looking up, like it's always someone of stature.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too I kind of thought about was, you know, if we're dealing with what I kind of think in this, you know, movies universe of Satan is, it's also probably pretty fair to assume that maybe like Satan can come in different forms however he needs to.
Yeah, the goat, the big ass man.
Always a goat, yeah.
Always the goat.
And the little centipede.
The goat's name is Noodles. That's the actual goat's name.
Really?
Yeah. Noodles is a good boy.
How did you know that?
Because I found it. I found some information on the movie.
Oh, it's not that same goat they use in The Witch who got like fired for being a dick.
Black Phillip.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's okay. So I wish I had my time back now because I rewatched this on Prime. And, like, Prime has that X-ray thing where, like, every time you pause a scene, it shows you, like, who's in it and, like everything about what's on the screen. And, like, I remember I paused it at one point to get up and, like, get a cup of coffee or something. And it was when the dog was on the screen and the dog's name popped up and it was, like, Keith or whatever. Or I can't remember. Keith. I don't know why I said
Stop
Keith.
it.
But, you know, it was, like, whatever. And so now I'm like, oh, fuck, I should go back and check and see if it comes up on the screen as, you know, whatever name you just said, Diddy or Doo-Wop or...
Diddy.
What did you say his name was?
Noodles?
Noodles! Why did I say Doo-Wop? I don't know what I'm saying.
Doo-Wop.
Doo-Wop, that thing. Lauryn Hill. Stream it.
I was going to say, it was interesting for me for this watch, because I've only ever seen this twice. I've seen this, obviously, when I watched it probably with you, Mike, the first time.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this with my mom, because mom is also a huge Rob Zombie fan. And that's been forever. Like, I watched this with mom, that would have been, oh man, like at least, 6-7 years ago. So I couldn't remember anything about this. And I really, even this movie starting off, I had a note that I really, really like the title card of this, which I kind of made an interesting note as watching this. I thought it was very interesting because this is, to me, a real outlier for Rob Zombie in his filmography, just because he never made, nor after this has he ever made anything that feels the way this film does. He always has a very, grindhouse, very, juvenile, exploitative feel, where it's a shame Colt wasn't on this episode. This had more of this, polished A24, artistic horror feel. And I just thought, I had written down the word, refined. To me, this was just, a very interesting thing for him to choose. I'm a fan of, his Halloweens, but when I look at his filmography, I kind of think of it as, his original work. This is, his third, where we had House of a Thousand Corpses, then The Devil's Reject, then this. And I just thought it was, super interesting how how artistic and, slow burn feel this had compared to his other stuff.
Yeah, I think he finally had a chance to, really do what he wanted, because I know his Halloweens were, heavily edited once he was done with them. And, the rest of his stuff is good, but it has more of a grimy, gritty feel to it, whereas this one is, like you said, very polished, very A24-esque, and Colton's probably going to be pissed about hearing that. But when I was looking at Letterboxd, I think one of the top comments was if you slapped A24's logo on this, people would love it, but just because it's Rob Zombie, people aren't going to like it. So going back to what we just said about, him being such a divisive director. But, I think we took him out of the trailer park for this one.
Yeah, it definitely has a more traditional horror feel to it. I thought it was very easy to see his influences of like Rosemary's Baby and
Suspiria.
Yeah, Suspiria. I also had like The Wicker Man. I thought there was like definitely some references, especially towards the end.
Shining.
Yeah, The Shining.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. I call this his Kubrick film, right? So I definitely saw The Shining in there.
I think that's a good way to describe it. I really thought about The Wicker Man towards the end because we actually get them in the masks, but they're all like blackened, but they are like the animals' masks, just like the townspeople in The Wicker Man. But I think all those, like you said, Kubrick's probably the best way to describe it.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Yes.
Because of the girls with the mask and the no clothes. Yeah, it's like they're walking around the orgy.
This was him saying, like, let me do something for the people that drink their tea with their pinkies out for a second here. And then, to go into something not as artistic, I like in my notes, like I said, the first thing I had was, fuck yeah, love that title card. The second thing I had, fuck yeah, Rick James. Because if you play Rick James in your movie, I'm sold. I'm sold.
The soundtrack. I mean, Robert Zombert's gonna pump out the jams. He's a man of jams, and he certainly did.
He is, and taste.
Yeah, and also I noticed that I don't know if you guys know who John 5 is, but he he's a really famous guitarist. He was in Rob Zombie's band. He was in Marilyn Manson's band. He's got solo work. He did some of the music for this soundtrack, but he also apparently had a small role, and I did not recognize him or can't remember like what character he played, but I thought that was cool.
Was he the like rocker guy near the end that when she was riding the goat, maybe? I don't know. I'm just gonna say if it was a musician, maybe that'd be, although that feels like it would be too obvious for Rob Zombie.
I'll have to look into
it. Put a musician as a anyway, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, listen, it goes to show you our kind of diverging priorities, because literally the first note I have, as always, is Meg Foster! Exclamation point!
Spitting on a baby.
Yeah, I was like, oh god, this bitch. Is there anything she can't do? I love her. Getting her fucking tits out in like 60 seconds flat.
Yeah, I mean, I think this cast is worth kind of talking about, because even though, we have, I think, the typical, we got Sheri Moon, and we got Jeff Daniel Phillips, and Ken Foray's in this, like, so we've got, like, some normal zombie people. Like, I'll be honest, I think rewatching this might have the best cast
100%
of a zombie movie. I mean, obviously, is any movie better with Bill Moseley in it? Probably. I love Bill Moseley, but obviously he doesn't really, I don't think he really fits in something like this.
No, there's an energy I think that he has that maybe would jive with this not that well.
But like, I really like Bruce Davison in this. I thought his character, I kind of had him described as like cute grandpa, just grandpa working on books, doing some research. Unfortunately, getting bludgeoned by frying pans, but
he was wholesome though. Can we go back to Sheri Moon Zombie?
Yes.
For a sec?
I did want to have a bigger conversation about Sheri Moon Zombie.
Yes.
So
we were shutting it down.
Yeah.
All right. I know not everyone is like the biggest fan of Sheri Moon Zombie's acting, but I think she was perfect for this role. I love that Rob Zombie, loves his wife so much that he gives her all these roles. But I think this is the first time she's had like a real big role. And I think she just fit the character and the atmosphere very well. It's a little quirky, but it's not over the top. And I found myself actually like rooting for her character, Heidi, like the whole time. And it was so devastating to see her fall despite like all she's trying to do for herself and like not fall back into that sink pit of addiction.
Considering the roles that she had in his films before this, they were so much fun, but like it was very like caricature-ish.
Yeah.
And she got to be like really subtle and like play like a real person in this, and you're like, okay, she actually can act. It's not just her playing this, kooky baby, psychopath, over the top character, right? Like, yeah, it gives me like very much a man loving his woman, and like I also love just the way he films her in this movie and like waits for her. It's wonderful. I think it's like they have great synergy.
I love their relationship.
Yeah, you can definitely see. I was gonna say I had a note about like you can see how Brandon Trost Brandon Trost, I think is how he says his name, is the cinematographer in Rob Zombie, just how they framed her. Like, you can really see, like, the love there and the care for the character. And, I mean, definitely this is the deepest thing I think she still has ever done. I don't know if I'm, like, as huge on her performance as you two guys. I mean, I'm one of those guys, man, I try, but it's really hard. I know Sheri Zombie's got her odd politicalness to her that I just
I have to divorce myself from her real person now. Completely.
I remember how sad I was when she was like posting all the stuff about the trucker protests up here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dear Lord.
Listen, you can take him out of the trailer park.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think she definitely, embodied this well, and just kind of like the depression that obviously the character Heidi is in, even when she seems happy in the beginning, like you can tell there's kind of this like sorrow to it, to the character. I think out of the people he picks, normally to play roles, that I think was interesting to see her try to fully carry a film.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, Ken Foray, he was my guy this whole thing. He's always my guy in zombie films. I love him. Horror icon, just in general. And I mean, obviously, I still think he's never going to beat his role that was in Devil's Rejects as like the brothel house owner. But, I thought he was good with the wig in this. I laughed the minute he came on screen, just rocking the wig. And I like how they made the joke throughout the film.
They pointed it out.
Yeah. That he should just lose the wig. I was going to say, too, I like the setting. I like, not necessarily about it being in Salem, which is cool, because I thought, as someone that just went to Salem this year for the first time, it was awesome to see all
Light flex.
Yeah. But it was cool
Check
to
out
see.
the Instagram.
It was cool to see, like, actual, like me and X went to the Bewitched statue that they show in this.
The Irish pop group from the late 90s. Wrong chat.
The engine room, she lives in the engine room. We went by there. Unfortunately, they're doing a lot of construction in that building, so when we were there, like, you couldn't really you couldn't go in or anything, but it was there, so that was cool to see. But to me, I was just very interested in the setting of the disc jockeys and the radio world, and this being really about music, because this is kind of what you'd expect from Rob, a musician in the first place, where all his other films have really, the music has just been Rob Zombie music. House of a Thousand Corpses was Rob Zombie songs, and he
Jams.
He did start to flirt with Devil's Rejects with kind of the southern rock, but I just like that as his filmography goes, he kind of flexes these, his knowledge in the music. Like, there's a lot of, Lou Reed in this, Velvet,
my God, the Velvet Underground just throughout the whole movie was chef's kiss.
Yeah, Velvet Underground, all the way to, Mozart, and, just really him being able to be let me show some musical influences of mine in this film and incorporate them into the horror.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, you didn't even give a shout out to our two mothers, Dee Wallace and Patricia Quinn, aka Magenta from Rocky Horror. How dare you?
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, I saved these for you. I saved these for you to highlight.
Mothers, it's a mother convention in this movie, and we're just going to throw that out there. And Miss Barbara Crampton, one of my icons of all time, popping up in a little cameo for 2 seconds.
I never lose faith that Zombie is gonna cast, some nods to the horror.
Amazing mothers, yeah.
Like you said, just perfect casting for the sisters of just these icons into kind of anyone that's into movies. Dee Wall's iconic. What kid's not watching Magenta and Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Right? And going that's my legend. That's who I want to be when I grow up. I want to be a fishnet wearing alien.
I did want to talk about, so towards the ending, this is where it's difficult because I can't say I visually didn't like it, but then I kind of can. I kind of thought, like, when we go into the theater where we're having the main performance of the Lords of Salem, or what people think is this performance, I kind of thought, especially in the theater, especially with, like, the white lighting in the background, I thought this is where the movie looked its cheapest, and like there was a lot of shots in this where I was like, like the rest of this movie looks really, really good, and I'm like, this looks like some Sci-Fi Channel shit. Like, I thought the lighting was off, and I just like I could kind of feel the rushedness in this, because, you know, when you read about the film, this was super rushed. Like, I forget who it was, but like there was a kind of an older, like, more famous actor in the role of, you know, the old Hawthorne that they totally had to trash because he actually died like 12 days into making this.
Oh shit.
Oh my god.
And like he was gone. Like, he couldn't remember his lines or anything like that. But it was basically like Rob Zombie had to tweak this on the fly because they didn't have an extra day of shooting. So he had to, like, you know, shoot something totally different because they couldn't reshoot any scenes.
Yeah.
And I felt in that, which is weird because once you get past the sisters kind of doing their, you know, their speech and their proclamation to Satan and what's kind of gonna happen from there on, like, I did like afterwards how it looked, you know, the priests jerking the dildos off, all that kind of stuff. Like, I was like, this looks good. I just thought that one scene, to me, I was like, this is like a little iffy and seems like a little like student filmish.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. For most of the movie, like, I love the cinematography, but during that like last portion of it is like when it started to lose me a little bit. And I know it's supposed to be bonkers, but it was like exhausting, kind of. And speaking of strobing lights, 31. That is all.
Listen, I will agree the strobe light part was maybe a bit not it. But, like, literally, there were moments, like, for one, I have a particular note about her bed in the cathedral. That shot, that scene, literally, like, gagged me. Like, I was even rewatching it for like the fourth time, I was just like, like my jaw was on the floor. I thought it looked so good. So I'm hoping that you weren't referring to that little bit because I thought it looked amazing.
Was that during are you talking about like the really red church, like in the impregnation?
No. It's the
performance,
like, kind of golden. Yeah. Remember when there's that moment where her bed is there now, and there's like a beautiful, like,
I thought that looked fine. And
okay.
I did make a note. I really did like, you know, we did talk about the like impregnation scene, but I did like the look of that with where they were like, it seemed they were in like a more, you know, like Vatican looking, like,
yeah, like
church, Catholic church, really grand. Everything was like really red, almost royal. And I did love the look of that, like when we get introduced to the little weird creature. And I think the big hairy creature's also shown in that also. And I did love the look of that. Kind of that's when the opera music started to kick in.
Yeah.
Which I did love. I was just like, you go, Zombie. Just you flex for those A24 nerds.
For Colton.
Which is interesting because I didn't even really think about it, and I guess I never really think about it with Rob Zombie because a lot of his films, especially now, I think 31 stuff, you know, 31 was like crowd-funded when he made it.
Yeah.
I think Universal did House of a Thousand Corpses. But this one, if you actually look into it, their name isn't in it. But this is paid for by a company called Ghost Productions or Ghost House, which if you look up is actually a subsidiary of it's Blumhouse. This is a Blumhouse movie.
Jason Blum is one of the producers on it. I never noticed that before this rewatch. I was like, holy fuck, how did I not know that?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I never knew it. I looked into it. So apparently like this film the first Insidious, and some, I can't remember the other movies, were all kind of, so Blumhouse had made like a subsidiary company that had put those out, but I think once they kind of really blew up, they just sucked everything under Blumhouse. But it kind of made me wish, I think about the hits and the misses with Blumhouse, and it just kind of really makes me sad that Blumhouse has never kind of tried to work with him again, because I think, yes, I think Rob Zombie has big ideas. I think Rob Zombie, like most people, wants a company that can give him a large budget. But I think, I'm probably not the world's biggest fan of 31, but I thought 31 was interesting for what he could do with like such a constrained budget, that it'd be really interesting to see him kind of delve more into like a Blumhouse, like, we're going to give you $1 or $2 million and see what you can come back with. And I was just like, yeah, it seems kind of a shame that they didn't continue this partnership.
For sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of my main last notes is I thought maybe have a semi-serious discussion on, obviously, like we said, with Sheri Moon's portrayal in this, like, this movie really just kind of a stand-in, a huge metaphor for addiction and kind of like the cycles of addiction and just how hard sobriety is, really. And I was just curious, like, did that work for you guys? Do you think it landed, or maybe half landed, or what are your guys' thoughts?
For me, it certainly landed, because one thing I really liked about this movie is that it was very show, not tell.
Yeah.
So you really do have to like pay attention to all these subtle clues and hints to like know what's actually going on in this movie. And it took me like a while to like really connect it to addiction. But some of my favorite parts of the movie were like witnessing her trying to do better, trying to like stay afloat, like learning French via cassette tapes and walking and caring for her dog, going to like the AA meetings, and just like seemingly thriving in life, but it just takes like a little slip for her to fall. And it almost made me feel like I wasn't watching a horror movie, but then it gave me like major whiplash when things started to go wrong.
It was definitely a lot more subtle than you would probably expect. I feel like they kept it mostly subtext, which was nice.
Yeah.
It actually gave it like a little bit of depth and allowed you to kind of like appreciate the way it operates on multiple different levels. So yeah, I think it was very well done. It was not half-baked. It was just, I just think it was sort of naturally woven into the like fabric of the movie. And obviously as the movie progresses and things get more and more out of control, it bubbles to the surface more, but it's still not like,
it's not like this is an addiction movie. Like,
exactly. Yeah. There's still just like, listen, this is just baked into it as it is. And it's a subtle part of the movie, but it's important. Especially when they have that little moment at the end when it like flashes back to like, home video of her like with the dog in the park. And I'm just like, oh my God, my fucking heart. It just like is ripped in 20 pieces. Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought it did a pretty good job too with, like, showing like with Ken Foray and Jeff Daniel Phillips's character, like kind of, really kind of casualties, but just, how being in the throes and dealing with addiction also affects like those outside people. Because like you said, Jill, it's very subtle, but like, both these guys like kind of drop hints in conversations about like going through addiction with her beforehand and like being really worried about her. And then obviously, we see Whitey Herman. I kept saying Herman this whole episode, not thinking that both these guys
they're both Herman,
are named Herman. Just one guy's named Whitey in it, which, good. I do love. That's a good Rob Zombie nickname. But obviously Whitey, because Whitey having the feelings he has for Heidi in this, but just like dealing with that kind of, willing to sacrifice anything. But even then, like, it's not enough when someone's just in the throe of those addictions. And yeah, what a way for me to Debbie down on my last note there.
I just wanted to say that it has one of my favorite qualities about horror movies, and I have several like horror movies in my canon that I love that are like this, but similar to like say It Follows, it has this like quality where it seems completely wrenched from like time and context. Like for most of the movie I'm like, oh, this is obviously like, it makes me feel old to say a period piece would be like the 90s, but you know what I mean? It's like, oh, this must be set in the 90s, and then all of a sudden he's like banging away on like what would clearly have been a in 2012 like expensive ass like MacBook or whatever, and doing like, you know, 23andMe research, and I'm like, okay, so it isn't, you know what I mean? And I love that, like, you know, but she's listening to tapes, and you know, they spin their vinyl, which it's so funny because I feel like at the time vinyl didn't make as much of a like comeback yet as it has, as like a main way that people like enjoy physical music. But
You definitely wouldn't be playing vinyl in a radio station.
No, exactly. You'd have your collection at home, and but yeah, you wouldn't be, that wouldn't be your like main way of like spinning tunes. And I love that quality of like it's sort of like just wrenched free of time, like you don't know exactly when it takes place, and I just like that. It makes it like a little bit creepier because it's just like, it's unsettling because you just really like you're trying to pin it down so you can like figure everything out, but you can't because it's just it exists kind of free of context. You're just like, you're in this Salem that's modern day, but it's like, how modern day? I just love that. I love that quality about it. I love that Zombie does that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's always, I feel like we always talk about films that, like you said, do that. Just it always has an unsettling factor when you can't figure out what the time period is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Also, she's very white girl with dreads. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I need to say that before the episode's over.
I feel like I don't know, do they? I feel like maybe they get a pass. They've been rocking it for like, what, like 30, 40 years now, so.
Okay, so apart from the movie doing a wonderful job capturing the atmosphere of, you know, despair and dread, of addiction and mental health, with the juxtaposition of the witch's curse, I thought it was very representative of the curse of being a woman, and I love the idea of the curse of being a woman, like going back to like, you know, Eve eating the apple, the witch's curse, you know, the witches being put to death in Salem witch trials. And I thought it was interesting that like the men in this movie were like unaffected by the curse, and also they weren't struggling with addiction. And one thing that I really liked, one of the scenes I really liked, was the three sisters. And we have the palm reader.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like reading her palm, and she says to Heidi that she is fated to succumb to her dark sexual desires. And she was like really taken aback by that. And that's like always like a shameful thing to be as a woman. But then she goes to the church and she gets like sexually assaulted by the priest. And yeah, I don't know. I thought that the discussion of like destiny versus fate and how you can change your destiny, but fate isn't escapable. I liked all of that.
Yeah, and that added that, I really love that moment. And I made a couple notes about it too. And that really kind of, to me, drove home the like despair of the whole movie.
Yeah.
You know, it was so fatalist. It was just like, you know, just watching a train go towards
it's just
inevitable
gonna
crash, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, it's so tragic, it's so heartbreaking. Also, just I because you brought up, you know, kind of like that original sin woman being like cursed right from the get-go. I loved that it was only the women who were like affected by this curse. And, you know, like every time they played the song, like all the women would stop, and it's like, oh my god. And then remember when they meet Bruce Davison's character and they start grilling him about his wife? They're like, is she from here? Do you have a daughter? You know, he's like, no, she's from Venezuela. And they're like,
that is so funny. And his wife is so cool.
I love that moment. They're like, oh, okay, so he's we can write him off because, you know, his wife is not going to be affected by the curse.
Right.
She's so unbothered. Maria Conchita Alonso, unbothered queen.
Yep. Loved her.
I was going to say, just for a random point too, that I thought it was an interesting choice because, no witches in Salem ever burned, only hung.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't actually do that. They did do it in history, just not in Salem.
Right.
So is it obviously? I mean, I understood the choice of that. A little more like horrific. You know, he could bring out stuff like the Iron Mask and everything, and some of the iconography he wanted to use. So I get it. It was a choice, but just kind of interesting fun fact for everybody.
Yeah, I guess it's like more horrifying, like you said, the choice to be like burned alive.
Yeah.
I think they do that in like American Horror Story Coven, and like they do that in a lot of places, even though it's not historically. Yeah.
my favorite moment in any American Horror Story. Fucking Myrtle Snow burning at the stake and just screaming out, Balenciaga!
My friend did her for drag, and I love that.
Nice! That must have been some wig.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll have to find a picture.
The wig and the glasses, like, yeah.
It's
pure
iconic.
drag, pure camp, yeah.
Yep.
So if that is everything, we will land this plane and get into rating it. If you're new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Jill, what would you rate Rob Zombie's The Lords of Salem?
All right. I like the plot. I think Sheri Moon Zombie killed it with her portrayal of Heidi. I love the themes, love the cinematography. It was mesmerizing. I don't really have anything bad to say about it, except near the end it goes a little bonkers, but like that's part of it. I think this is like Rob Zombie's like swan song. I think this is like his best work, and I want to see him do more things like this. Like, this is such a cool concept. Like, you don't find much horror that has, so many things going on like he has in this one, and it's not just, like shallow. It's nice. So I'm gonna give it a yay. What about you, Rowan? How do you rate it?
It was kind of hard because I was thinking about it. Like I said, I didn't really overly remember much about this. And I really enjoyed watching it. I know, like, one of the things we didn't really mention in the review that I love, like, I love some of the, I don't even want to call them jump scares. They were just kind of like creepy things where we'd see kind of the ghost of these past witches, like, in Heidi's house, like, on the ceiling, or just like, and she wouldn't notice them, and they're naked, and they're, it's just like really disturbing and shocking. And I thought like that stuff was really effective. But then I guess I was having the thought of, when I'm going to a Rob Zombie movie, like, is this what I'm looking for? As much as I loved it, it's just like, I get this kind of movie from so many other people that it makes me, I think, appreciate the Devil's Rejects and House of 1,000 Corpses more, because I do like his kind of signature style of this like exploitative grindhouse feel.
For sure.
So I think I'm also gonna give it a yay. I mean, I think it is very well done. And this is way better actually than I thought it was. I had kind of had this little voice in the back of my head thinking when I watched this with Mom that I didn't overly like it that watch. And I don't know why I had that, because I really, really liked it this time around. And I kind of kicked myself. I'm like, why haven't I watched this movie more? Because this is kind of everything I'm looking for in like kind of an artsy, witch movie. So I'm going to give it a yay. How about you, Mike?
Okay, well, I feel like I enjoy this more every time I see it, which is a very good sign. I'm honestly gonna give it a slay.
Oh, nice.
I have to say, so to me, it does sort of carry on with what you guys were saying. I really enjoy that this movie marries elements and scenes of like his usual like really dirty, scuzzy grindhouse brutality with a lot of more elegant and refined, like elevated aspects, like the cinematography and the lighting and everything, and the like murals of like silent film on the wall and all that. And I just love that, like, okay, so my thing is that I feel like a lot of quote unquote horror directors who have that like really elegant kind of auteurist style don't actually like horror movies, and I've said this before. Whereas Rob Zombie, to me, with this movie, proves that he can do that and also show that he loves horror movies and that he knows horror movies, because this is very studied. Like, he knows, I mean, Rob Zombie knows horror movies. Like, look at who he casts, look at the references. Like, he knows it and he loves it, and he can do the brutal, like, I'm trying to make a 70s grindhouse homage, but he can also do the I'm making something that's very Kubrickian and elegant. And I just love that. To me, it's perfect in that aspect. I know a lot of people really dislike this movie, and a lot of people dislike him, and it's, like you said before, it's very divisive, but I think he has the chops, and this, to me, it really, because I have those two sides of me too. I really enjoy, like, something that's very elegant and stylish and high fashion and beautiful and like Fabergé egg, but I also like just absolutely dirty, filthy, blood. I love, his Halloween movies because they're so fucking brutal.
Hell yeah.
And disturbing. And this just marries all that. And I love it. So it's a sleigh. Honestly, to me, it has everything. It's got like sound, lighting, great subtext, great acting, everything.
Dildos.
It's all those. Yeah, exactly. All those elements. References to classical painting, silent film. Like I said, to me, it's the whole package. So slay. I've got to say, I really want to see it in 4K. I need to put that out there.
Yeah, they need more Rob Zombie.
I'm speaking
4K.
this into existence.
So we told you what we thought about the film, and we asked you what you thought, and you guys let us know. So we had a couple answers. Pedal Frog wrote in on Instagram and said, couldn't even make it past the first 20 minutes. So boring.
What? That's like the best part.
I mean,
like my favorite part.
To each their own. I could see maybe, maybe not everyone's thing. I'd be curious, Pedal Frog, like, are you normally into witch movies, or is that not really your jam? 'Cause I know there's a lot of people that like don't really like witch stuff and find witch films usually pretty slow or pretty boring. So, but I mean, you know what? Not everything can be everybody's jam, so we fully understand.
Listen, I gave it a slay, but I understand that a lot of people, this is 100% not scratching any of their itches.
Horror Hound and Patreon member Holly P wrote in and said, never watched a Rob Zombie film. Might have to actually try this one, but I'm dubious.
Listen, I need to know Holly's thoughts. Like, please watch it and let us know. Give us some feedback. Even if you say you fucking hated it and like never want to watch it again, that's fine. I just want to know. I'm curious.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, too, if you are kind of scared of Rob Zombie films for maybe what you've heard or what you've, like, seen clips of, like we said, the whole episode, this is very different than anything he's ever done. This is the most Rob Zombie film, so this might be a good one to try. And we had Melanie St. George write in and said, I didn't like this one and was really excited at the time for a witch movie. Maybe one day I'll try to rewatch.
Fair.
So that's fair. I mean, like I said, Melanie, I kept thinking last time I watched it that I wasn't, I had kind of gone off of it and thought it wasn't that great, and then came back around and loved it. So, maybe that's all you need to do. And then I do have to add, Holly then wrote in a question, but unfortunately, guys, it was really just a question for me. And it said, Rowan, how's the X-Files going? I'm on season 4, episode 22. And the answer is, Holly, you are ahead of me. I am on season 3, and I think episode maybe 4 or 5. So I've got some catching up to do, but I hope you are enjoying watching it just as much as I am enjoying watching it. So once I catch up, we'll have a conversation about it. And then I think we're going to head on over to the horrific hotline, because Nicholas did get one in. I know he wrote me the other day and was like, oh shit, I forgot about Lords of Salem. And then I kind of got worried for him. He's like, hopefully I can watch it, get you a response. And then literally like 2 hours later, he was like, oh, it's in your email.
He's so efficient.
Yeah, he's like, I watched it. And so there you go. So we will get into that. And yeah.
So I hadn't seen The Lords of Salem until now. as I think the only Rob Zombie movie I haven't seen yet. And I gotta say, I was a bit surprised because it does not fit in with the rest that much, at least on a first look or first view, because there are a lot of rather slow burn sequences, especially in the first half, which is also my favorite part of the movie, or, well, favorite part.
Nice.
I prefer the first
Same.
half of the movie with its slower build-up. It feels a bit like Rob Zombie's trying to make his own version of, let's say, Rosemary's Baby or something like that. Whereas the second part of the movie gets a bit more weird, a bit more crazy. And I do like the crazy stuff, but every now and then the movie jumps back to, I'd say, ordinary scenes with the two guys the main character works with, or the person, the guy with the book who tries to figure out what is going on. And I think those scenes were mostly unnecessary. Was mainly Heidi's journey in the movie, and I didn't care much for the other characters. I do like some of the scenes where there are suddenly some figures in the background. I thought they were kind of scary, and I do in general like many of the shots, or the quote-unquote scary shots of the hallways. Though I have to admit, I could have done without the weird Bigfoot devil costume and the smaller gnomish devil costume monsters. Those, I don't know, didn't fit into the movie for me overall. Still, I'm going to give it a yay, maybe a weak A, but I did enjoy it. I gotta say, it was kind of a trance for most of the movie. And I hope you guys had a good time with it as well.
Aw.
There we go. Just winning people over on the Lords of Salem. Way to go, Mike.
Listen, one person at a time.
That's right. He needs to hire you. Good job. Good job. Yeah. So if you want to call into the horrific hotline, you can not call in, but you can, any way you can get us a voice note. You can just record.
The horrific hot DM.
Yeah. Nicholas just sends them through email, but you can send them in our DMs on anywhere, like Instagram. If you can record it on your phone,
you can send any media through DMs and Instagram.
Just send it to us, and we'll figure out a way to play it. And like we said, it can be about the movie we're reviewing. Even if you want to talk about a movie that we already reviewed, maybe you're just listening to the episode and you had some thoughts. Or you just have a question in general you want to ask us, and we'll answer it. And that social media that you can find out where to contact us at is at It Slays Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, X, Tumblr, Blue Sky, Threads, Slasher, Letterboxd, pretty much anywhere there's social media, we're probably on it. If not, we'll probably get there eventually. And Jill, do you want to talk about joining the Patreon?
Yeah. And if you want to support the show like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Stephen, Joy, Carvey, and Dan, gain access to the Patreon exclusive show, Stream Screams, hosted by me, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early, be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Rowan, why don't you tell us about the spooky playlist?
Yeah, so go to Spotify and look up the It Slays Podcast horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of those social media I mentioned before and go to the Linktree link in the bio and it'll take you directly to it. We upload scores or licensed music from horror movies we review, or iconic horror movies, or just horror movies we love. So yeah, go check it out and get your spooky music on. I think I just uploaded a bunch of stuff from Megan, actually. So
hell yeah.
That just got put up there, and some other stuff too. I can't really remember, but there's some new stuff always going up there. So check it out. And last but not least, we need to announce our next episode, and it is a Jill pick. Jill, why don't you let the people know what they need to watch?
All right. Meeting your future in-laws is scary, But what's scarier is doing so when there are more sinister consequences. Next episode, we are doing Jordan Peele's Get Out. So get your eyeballs on that and be ready for that episode.
I can't even follow that up. That's way to do better than any of us introducing our movies. So
get good.
So I think that is everything for this episode. As always, thank you for all the support. I am Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
And bye, it's Jill.
See you later.
We're going to expand our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store. Back where it says horror videos and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
But the prime time gets.
Mom with the new fletch.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.